Hello, happy Wednesday. Rubbish day, isn't it? It's the sun's gone, which means we have to stay indoors. I've had our walk this morning, quite nice actually. So, for somebody who doesn't like flowers much, I thought we'll have another do at some flowers. But I've never done it with charcoal, and I've never done it with a coloured underpainting. So because we're on gessoed paper, again, acrylic gesso, yeah, and Newton, again, still not paid me. Galleria, pure white, acrylic gesso, gives you that lovely texture. We're mainly using willow charcoal, which is burnt wood. Yeah. Probably not compressed today because it's quite a light, very contrast tonally, very subtle. I've got a stippling brush. I've thought about doing the stamen with that and a bit of charcoal wet. I've had a practice there just to show you, and that'll give you some texture. We're going to rub out the lights, but I'm going to put colour on first. We want it very thin, no really thick paint, because I want a subtle change in tone. And because the main flower is on the left, that's catching the light, and this one is going into a bit of more shadow. Okay, so I thought we'd have warmer colours here, going into some alizarin, going into some blue, something like that. It's entirely up to you. You could turn it the other way around if you wanted, but the flower is at the top where the light's coming from, so that gives you that third in, third up, third down kind of area of interest where you're going to get the whitest whites, which is the pure white of your paper. Okay, I am working today, yeah, people are on. So I've got a hoarse voice because of all this talking. If you're working with me, I know it's quite quick again, but I'm just going to glaze this lovely burnt sienna. And I don't really want any drips and runs in this today, because I want it to be like a subtle cut tone. So that's alizarin, yeah, going into that alizarin colour. And I'm doing it kind of diagonally as well. But I do want the colours to blend on their own. We have to actually let them cool down a bit, not cool down, dry them off, because we can't do anything unless it's dry. So that's going to give you some kind of shadowy colours, shadowy tones, yeah, but it's also going to give you some lovely warmth in that kind of areas, yeah. And that's all I'm aiming for by doing that. I've got a few hairs stuck to my gesso because my brush is falling to bits, and just blend out some of the runs, and then get so you got really nice pastel colours. Again, this is Galleria, Windsor Newton Galleria again, acrylic paint, alizarin crimson, ultramarine blue, and burnt sienna. Nice subtle changes in tone. Alright. And then we use charcoal over the top, so charcoal's going to give you tonal values, and we're going to dry it off with a hairdryer. Can't talk there. You have to make sure it's dry thoroughly before you put charcoal on, and charcoal will stick to it. You don't want that. You need to be able to rub it off. We will be glazing it as well. Same technique, a bit more subtle today. The kind of Georgia O'Keeffe style of painting, or flower painting. Nice big areas. Just keep going until the shine goes off it, like that, and you don't get any more runs, and then it's easier to rub out. Alright, easier to rub out the tone. You could actually use some more tones in areas that you know are going to be slightly darker. you know. So looking at the picture here, you've got these like subtle shadowy bits, and they'll blend into other areas. Whatever you put on first, it's going to kind of make a difference to what the picture looks like. So in that area I've got some stamen. I won't bother there yet because I want some of that light. And I want to dry that off. Right. Get some of the hairs off. It doesn't matter, it's got a bit texture. You can actually splatter water on as well, just to give you some texture. It's entirely up to you. You just want some tone or contrast. I don't want much up here, I want more over here. You can glaze it with the same colours, or one colour, or just water, it doesn't really matter. As long as it's dry, so I can put my charcoal on. Sorry if you can't hear me. So with this one, don't use compress. Okay, thoroughly dry. Thoroughly dry. A little cockle, don't worry about it. Hope you can all hear me. The hair dry on. Somebody will tell me if they can't. Lovely pastel colours, that's what we want. Okay, and then we're going to destroy that. As you know, I like destroying things. When we put willow charcoal on, which is that, and we blend it, we get these subtle changes in tone. So, this is the reason we need it to be thoroughly dry. So I can actually rub out a lot of this tone with the rubber and with the damp cloth later, and that colour will come through. So because there's a lot of contrast of the mid-tone values of these flowers, these roses, I think wild roses, it's quite light, so when I blend all this charcoal, I should end up with this kind of mid-tone value, which is what I'm after, okay? You can either do it with this, your fingers. Like I say, if you do it with a tissue, you kind of end up with a nicer, take more tone off actually, but you get a nicer blend, don't you see? So it's knocking, it's your first part of knocking the picture back. So you're knocking it back, and from that mid-tone value, we're going to bring it forward again, aren't we? So for those who've never used this technique of just charcoal and acrylic, charcoal is just something that gives you contrast that you need with subtle tones. So the colours are still there, they're just a little bit darker because of my, you could call it a charcoal glaze actually, couldn't you? Just looking through my camera so I can see the change in tone slightly. And then I'm just going to sketch. So again, up here, I've got these really nice shapes. And I'm looking at the shape. If you look at the negative space between the side of your paper, square again, square, side of your paper and where these shapes are, between the edges of your petal. So that becomes a negative space, which is this shape. So as I'm coming down here, about like that, and then here I go this way, and then I go that way, and then I go off into the corner, at the side. So that's my other petal. But that is my negative space, which is a little bit darker. And you could block that, you could block that in a bit. Tidy up to here, just darken it so these stand out lighter. We've got this petal here, which is quite important because it curls, and then I've got the stamen area, which is somewhere like that. Again, we can just dirt and little areas within the petals, underneath the petals I should say, just to give you that lovely tonal blend. I'm using my fingers. Just make sure your fingers are clean. With all this washing of your hands, you should end up with a really nice, clean hands. We don't want any bugs, or we don't want any dirt on, or grease. That is the main thing. So from here, it just folds over there, comes in, folds over, and just soften that. We can actually create quite a bit of this subtle tone just by doing things like that. This, like I said, is where my stamen are going to be. I'm not going to draw them because it's really difficult to just get those haphazard areas. And then I've got this really big petal that's coming all the way down from there to about here. That's quite a big shape actually. And then from here, it's got a pointy bit, and it goes that way. This one curls. I've got a negative space, which is the background between 3 petals there, which is like that. Yeah, that curves that way, so I can come in. Very subtle. Yeah, you can put your negative space in. It's quite a dirt there between the petals, and then take it off again. So this shadow is coming around here, like that, and then here I've got this curve of the leaf again. So because they're kind of folding in on themselves, and that one's quite a big shape there, it's a big kind of fold in that leaf, which is slightly darker there. And then here, again, that's where my stamen are shapes. Okay, and then from this bit I've got another negative space, which is the shape of the leaf. Yeah, it's another, not leaf, a petal. It's another petal going that way, and that way, and that way. And then this one kind of comes off here and goes that way, and then curls round, and I'll get 3 petals together, kind of thing. Yeah, that's the shape in between that and that. So there's one here that goes off the picture. So just make them really, really big. Yeah, just having these little shapes that disappear and give you some shadows. Okay, you probably not be able to see that very well, but it doesn't matter. If I just block that in again, this is the negative space of the table or whatever they're on. So if you do it with the tissue, it takes a lot of it off, and then if you do it with your fingers, you've got that little bit dark, you see, and just blending it so you get the petals in the right spot. Again, we want to try and get rid of the lines, if anything. There's hardly any lines there, but we do know that we've got little areas of dark that's kind of in there. Alright, like that. And this one, we've got that petal there, and this is coming up. And they're all very similar in tone here, nothing too different actually. So it's alright. Okay, they're subtle. We don't need to use tissue now with this one. We're going to go straight in with a clean rubber. We'll get a clean one like this. And then starting at the top, I'm going to look for the lights. Can you see? Now, you might not think I've actually put a lot of charcoal on, but when you actually see where these lights are in the petals, it makes a really big difference to the tonal values in the picture. Try and keep subtle changes as well as highlights, yeah? So the tops of these petals, some of them are catching the light, and then got some things in there. And then here, I've got the shape of that one, which is curving away slightly. You can do it with the outside of your rubber, and you can just lift off like that, the side of a petal. Same up here, we've got kind of a folded one there, and that disappears into a shape like that, around that area. The thing is with flowers, I am learning, because I don't like doing too many flowers, but I am learning that the less you do to the flower itself, the better they're going to look. because we cannot paint petals as good as they actually look in nature. So I'm just trying to create the contrast between the light catching one area and another. So this petal, for instance, coming out, the edges quite light, and then it goes a little bit darker as it goes inside the petal. So there it's quite light, and then it's disappearing. I'll get the light coming this way. You think about where the light's coming from and how it creates this shape. That's how it's going to be. Eh? I mean, you might have said, well, we can just do it like this and leave it. Well, you could do. I mean, it depends what you want to do. I mean, the thing is with this technique that I'm using, I do like to destroy things because I don't like it to just be a representation of this petal and these flowers. I'd sooner it be something slightly kind of different, you know what I mean? So yeah, I'm getting these lovely shapes in. This is that kind of tube shape here. It goes slightly darker, and then it gets a reflected light here on the back of that curled petal, which is something like that. Paint what you see. I am painting because I'm painting with my rubber because I'm taking the light off like that. We can use white pastel, and we can use anything really to get the contrast back. Because you're on gesso paper, you can use acrylic, but we do want to keep this lovely underpainting colours in there. Right, so from sometimes you get lost a little bit. So from there, I've got this lovely hard edge, and it comes in, and then it goes that way, like that, and then I get the kind of changes in tone in the edges of that petal. And then I get this petal here, which is, again, the edges are just catching the light as we come down. So we're painting with the rubber, that's good, which is what rubbers are for, really. And then some of these petals, just little bits of light changing. Stamen, there's some kind of that shape there, and then I get a shape here, and that comes round there, like that. And then at the bottom I get more of that, and then more light catching that. So I'm not too bothered about this because it's blue, so it's going to be in shadow anyway. So that's this lovely highlight which is coming from about here actually. So we blend that, bring that down here, that. It does go a little bit darker there. You can always pick up charcoal dust to make a darker area like that. Again, we're getting a reflected light on that side, something like that. And then these at the bottom, edges. So I've got a kind of like an arrow shape there that blends in then to the rest of that petal, and then from here I've got this curve of that one, which is actually bringing the curve onto this one, and that's a fold as well. So that blends into the rest of that petal, okay? And then there's a little bit of a shadow there, but they're just these little shapes. Every now and again on the edges you get other things happening. Not necessarily just a complete line, just a little bit of a shape and a curve like that. Especially as they're going away from you, because you get these simple tones. That one blends very slightly into the dark, and then you got one here. This is coming round. Got one here again, which folds into the one that comes from here. You can see. Squint. Take your glasses off. Don't take your glasses off. Squint. I mean, since I've had my eyes done, I can see a lot better. But really, it's a disadvantage because I keep squinting. Anyway, you should always squint. More light up there, and as you start taking colour off or tone off, you can see lighter areas, and that's where you can start adding kind of lighter areas, big blocks of light. Nothing too fussy. If you get all the shapes in the right place, it should have a really nice representation of what you've got. So that blends into that. Some of the petals blend into other shapes as well. Yeah. So we can always spatter. I'm going to spatter now actually. Put some of the stamen in. Like that. So I've got a brush. Because I'm using charcoal at the moment, and just put some charcoal on my board. Dip my stippling brush, which is these which I used the other day, into my charcoal. Okay. If you're a bit scared, try it first. Like that. That looks really well. And then I'm just going to stipple there. We'll have to dry it off again. A bit more water, more charcoal. You don't want it too wet, actually. Just put some more charcoal on there. Pick up charcoal just in about here. Stipple. Alright. And then we do the same about here again. You get really nice big blobs and then you get flat blobs. Okay? The thing is, you have to dry that. I can use some charcoal just to pick out anything that I feel is a little bit darker than the rest. So for instance here, because it's on a table or whatever, you've got the shape of some of the leaves just casting shadows on the table. But I don't want to draw a full kind of line. Scratch off, give you some stem. Because it's wet, that you can have all these different shapes, and then that's coming around here. So at the top we've got darker shapes, some are over here, yeah. And then here as well we've got these lovely shapes. Just inside there I'm going to pick out the shape of that top of that petal, and then some more light. Scratch off, get some stamen. You can see a few of them are darker as well. Nothing too fussy, actually. You better do it randomly, random marks like. And it's only pastel, so it's only charcoal, so you're just going to wash it off. Same up here. I just want to get this background just to give me this lovely curve. And if you want something to look a little bit darker or lighter, if you want something to look lighter, put something darker next to it. If you want something to look light darker, put something lighter next to it. So yeah, vice versa. It is a bit of marble though, actually. It's on a marble work surface, and then here I'm getting the shape coming down to there. So blend that. Yeah. You can do a lot of splattering later as well when you do the rub out the rubber shape, because you don't want these little bits of rubber all over your picture. Don't blow, as I said, because you start blowing, it goes all around the room and everybody starts coughing. Okay, stand by. I've got a kind of lovely kind of pastel-y version of the image. That's all I'm after at this moment. And I'm going to fix it. I just need to dry my watery bits. You take it in turn, dry, paint with acrylic, then you dry it, and charcoal, and blend it, and then any water you put on now and charcoal you need to fix, but you need to dry the water first. Anywhere that's wet or a bit damp, you need to dry it first. Like that. And then we can fix it, because I can still rub out, you see. I don't want to rub anything out. I'm just going to keep that, like that. And these areas, don't forget, I can still go back to the white underneath. So this is not white. That's white, this is not. So when I go about with the cloth, I should get some of that lovely texture back. Hairspray, silver crin, beautiful stuff. My hair's getting that long now, I'll be using it myself in a bit. That's bohemian. So at the top, make sure it's dry, yeah. Spray it. If you've got a bad chest, do it outside. If you've got asthma or whatever, do that. So that's quite a nice flat. Just make sure you get everything really, and then dry it again. Hair dryer comes really in handy. Plenty of time. Once it's dry, it should be okay. And we can glaze it with the, like I say, you can either use water again, or you can use a bit more sienna if you want, as long as it's dry. So then we touch anything that's charcoaly. And if it doesn't come off, you're okay to glaze. Alright. Start at the top, work your way down, lots of water, small amount of paint. And again, I don't want it to run because I just want to knock it back again. So I'm actually knocking this, it's called knocking it back. Yeah, that will do for some of my kind of warmer tones up the top. And then I'll add the warm over there. I've got a bit of blue left as well, so I might as well use up some of the paint. So I've got this blue wash. When you put it on quick and don't keep scrubbing, you'll be okay. You won't take the paint off. So I'm just doing the same thing, knocking it back. A bit more alizarin over here. Get the purplish tone. Knock it back, then bring it back again. A bit more blue here. Beautiful. So blue and alizarin make purple. Isn't it? Beautiful kind of subtle tones over those light areas. I've just taken off. Wash your brush, keep it clean, and we need to dry that now. So it's the last kind of water you're putting on, apart from if you want to varnish it later. Just have a look what it's like on here. Yeah, add some water. Look great over your fireplace. Big one as well. Georgia Hawkins style. Always better drying it. Have a drink. You're always better drying it, because if you're going too wet, when it's too wet, the cloth, you're going to take too much off. Okay. Now I'm just going to do the same thing with a damp cloth. So because I've got some of these lovely highlights, just do a little section for you. You need, if you've got lovely nails, you'll soon ruin them. But if you need to kind of get your nail in as well to give you some lovely hard edges like that, and it's so easy to kind of blend one tone into another. Right. So you get the light, catch in there, and then it makes a cup, and then it catches the top like that, and that goes slightly reflecting. I've got something there, it's a line. And the edges where I put these, the rock that I did with the rubber. Yeah. They're just a guide then to help me to put the stronger whites in. Well, like I said, if the tonal value works, you don't actually need to rub anything out. So as you're working round, you're working down the picture, I suggest actually, from a corner, standing back, and then again, you can control where you want the golden section to be, which is usually, like I said, this flower is going to be mainly in the golden section, third in, third up. Curve here, and then that's going away from you, that petal, so it goes a little bit lighter there, and then it blends into the rest of the petal. And see, so you can really emphasise white areas. Don't worry if you don't get it too light too soon. Just do it slowly. Take it off slowly, so you can see where a white area changes into another soft area. We've got the top of this, which falls a little bit, and then blends into something over here, like that. And then that petal. Start to notice that one petal is in front of another. Oh yeah. So we keep this lovely blend here. It goes lighter, and then it goes darker, yeah, and then it goes light again, and then I get the kind of a crease here coming down to that one, like that. And we can soften that area so it blends in easier. I want it to curve a bit. That's the highlight on top. So then go that way, bringing out that lovely subtle tone, and then we get little bits of lights just catching some of the petal there. It comes this way, like that, and then it goes across here. I'm doing all this big area. Might be actually a little bit bigger than it is on the picture, but doesn't matter. So here it goes lighter on the edges, and as it's coming from the middle section, it's going lighter there. Yeah? So you get a good workout. This curves around into that kind of arrow shape, which I was on about earlier, like that. It's very light on the edges. Your pastel can do that later. You put pure white bits, and then the edges of this petal, which is going to blend. There's hardly any tone of this difference, something like that. Okay. And the light here. So I'm going right back to white paper there, the white of the gesso. Just get over here a bit. Keep working all around the picture. So I've got this, little bit of this, little bit of this, little bit of that. Got a nice kind of folds here, and then the light on the end. Then here we've got some light on this petal. Keep finding a clean bit on your cloth. I know it's not easy. This is why you need a holy cloth. It's Tesco one, but we don't got Tesco anymore because they kicked us out. Anyway, not talking about it. And then that blends into the shape here. It's like a big jigsaw actually. Big jigsaw puzzle. One shape leads you to another shape. That leads you to another shape. And we're still going to darken things, we're still going to work into things. But I just want to get this light that's catching some of these petals. And the light here, it's quite a big area. And that's a reflected light, so it's highlights, kind of white, reflected lights, not white, somewhere in between. So that's pure white highlight. And we get a strong line coming from there. This one, that's going into the shadow. This one again, lovely light at the top. That's coming across the petal. It's kind of curving inside. You've got like a cup shape. This is lighter on the edge. and then as it curves, you're going a little bit darker, just inside there. But that's where most of the light is. We've got the negative space behind, the shape of that petal in front of that one. You'll be sick of hearing me say petal. This one, like that, curving, a little bit out in places, but you can always put it back like that. That's that lovely shape there, and this is in shadow anyway, so I can just very slightly bring it out, and then as I'm getting down to here, the colours will change because I'll go cool now, edges of the petal, try and get the shapes coming in as well, so they're curving round, a little bit of light here on that curly one, yeah, and then a reflection, so the edge is quite light, like that, and then reflected light here. I like reflected light. So if it works with the underpainting, just leave the underpainting. Yeah. If the underpainting is the right tonal value, which is what you need, just leave it like that. And bring that down. This is quite strong. Lovely light right on the edge of that. Going that way. Yeah. Sometimes you better just leave in areas, let it disappear slightly. Like that. And put something there. And then these are coming out. Curling again. That's the edge and that's curling. That's kind of really light, it's darker. What time is it? 1:30, plenty of time. Quite an easy technique. I mean, I always say this and people, another easy one. But when you get the technique right, you get nice effects quite simply, quite quickly. And that's all we're after. The quicker you can do it, the better we are. I know some people are spending quite a while doing the pictures now, and you get some really good results. Yeah? But try and do them faster. You'll learn your own style as well. Your own style will start coming out, as I've noticed in a few. Being loose as well is much more enjoyable than being too one-eyed brush, I think so anyway. Although I do like people who can do, I like pictures that are photorealistic, but then again, if I tried to do one, well, I have done one, but it just didn't need them. So let that disappear, blend away into the nothingness. Okay, like that. You can have textures here, just by doing the splattering technique as well. Again, because it's water, it's just going to take some charcoal off, that's all. Don't let it go in your petals, you can help it. It can splatter in there, don't let it run across your petals. Again, don't let it run. And what I'm going to do is use a bit of paint just to put that dark bit in. You can actually use charcoal again. Well, charcoal with my stippling brush. Okay. Use a small brush as well. Where's my little one? Here we go. Just to paint some really strong darks. You can either use your charcoal, pick it up like this, so you get blobs, or you can use better using paint. That's all. Bit of blue, a bit of red, or green, a bit of red, stick to the same colours. Small brush, pick up some tones, and just have a look where seeing some stronger darks. And also define the sharp edge where the dirt meets the edge of a flower or petal. Keep them separate. Stand back over here as well. Don't forget to rub out this splashy water to give you some texture in there. A bit more marbling technique. Like I said, I've never done it this way before, but well, it works on portraits and whatever, so why shouldn't it work on this? And then white, because I'm using paint, I'm just going to have a look at pure white. So here, pastel, squinting, like that, and where some shapes just blend into others. And because I'm using pastel, it's opaque, so it will cover up whatever you've got underneath. So I don't really want it to cover up the transparency. I just want to bring out certain areas and emphasise them a bit more, like this. Blend the pastel. You can fix it, you can varnish it. Edges, squint, blend, line. That's quite a light area. It's a lovely curve. And you could use white paint. I just want to get some light here, actually, and then it curves here, so that's very light. I could see in here, and then it disappears. It's curving a bit. We can emphasise that with a bit more colour as well. And I'm looking for these lighter areas on the edges of the petals. Stand back. So like here. I'm just bringing out bits. Okay. Little bits, little bits. The more you start using white down here, the more you bring it forward. I don't want to bring all this forward now, so I just want to bring out little bits of it, certain areas, leave the contrast, little marks as well, where one tone changes into another. Leave that, 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 and that. Alright. Like we've got some light bits in the stamen. If you squint, I don't know what they are, probably bits of the stamen catching the light. Again, don't do them all going the same way. Okay. And then I'm going to get a smaller brush. Use similar colours again, because I just want to paint the background. So I'm painting negative space. I could varnish this and leave it. So I can go back into this kind of area to give me this really nice dark and bring things out. Okay, I could use the sienna to go slightly darker as well. So these are glazes as well, but I'm not glazing everything, I'm just glazing bits of the picture. This is one you can work on for hours if you want to. It's entirely up to you. I'm sure some of you will, if you like flowers, I should say. Just picking out these shapes and glazing them so they blend into other areas. And get to dry brush technique, which is thick paint, especially at the bottom. Comes up, try to, so like the edge of that. And I'm not going too dark yet, I just want to build it up slowly. So some of these folds, just pick out little areas. And because it's a glaze, I can still rub it off. I can still rub out the paint. Because I've not varnished it, I've not done anything to it yet. I can still, can't make a mistake because I can still rub things out. Huh? Like that. I just want to go a little bit darker in the areas underneath the petals. You kind of go into some of the petals, you just have to be careful. You don't need too much, you want it to blend, like I said, blend it. A bit more dry brush. Thicker pigment. Look here, look where, so because that's blue, I can use a little bit more blue in this kind of area. Blend it. Stand back. Just keep standing back now and again, so you can see the what's happening from a distance. If you've got should have mentioned a dry brush, get me a damp one, and you just blend it into the background like that. So you have a hard edge and then it disappears. Yeah. You can do that quite a bit. Because you don't want just a line around something, you want it kind of to disappear into something else, like that. Yeah. So you can soften that edge if you need to. Yeah, it's quite dark there where that little bit is, again. Bigger blobs of stamen. But actually, there's quite a few really. I'm just going bigger because they have a depth. But anything further in is smaller. Anything near to you is bigger. Bigger. Okay. This little bit. Again, blend it. So it's quite dark when it gets where the petals are, and then it goes a little bit lighter as it curves around. Pull that. We don't want it to kind of draw a full line. It's like a peach. How to do peaches? Soften the edge. Up here it's going darker now because it's got a changing tone from where the edges of the flowers are. And I'm going to darken the top bit. I know I want to keep it warm, so a bit more warm. Burnt sienna at the top. If you add blue to burnt sienna, what do you get? Burnt umber. Save you a fortune in paint. You still have the texture, don't worry about the texture of the underpainting. Blue, burnt sienna. More sienna keeps it warm as well. Use the side of your brush, stops it being fussy. This is a glaze as well. Glazes are paint, water mixed together so you can see through it. You don't want it to be opaque too much, if at all. But you can make it more opaque if you start doing more detail, like I'll just show you, because here, where we've got that negative, am I still on? Can't hear anything. Yeah, we've got the negative between these two petals here. It's quite dark, so you just want to block that in. And it's just surprising what little things like that do, and the way they change tonal value. Like I said, if I tried to paint all the petal, it would be a lot more difficult. So all I'm painting is the background around them. I'm painting the shapes around the petals, and then it blends. There is a bit of charcoal still there, but to go a little bit dark, instead of using charcoal, I'm just using a bit of glazing colour. Blue, azurine, whatever. Blue sienna. Okay. So we'll just like darken that a little bit with sienna. And then that blends into there. Like I said, as long as you keep it quite thin, because you're on gesso, it will rub out. If you go too thick, you won't get it off, because it's acrylic paint. Okay. Bits of info. God, I've gone quiet. I've nothing more to say about painting flowers. Except they're just really nice, big, negative spaces and shapes. You can understand why George O'Keeffe got into them quite a bit. Can't you? Yes. The majority of the picture I've not touched. I'm just leaving it as the underpainting. Like that. Let's pick this out again. I keep going back to this. I want it a bit darker. It's kind of one of the only places. It's got a lovely marbling effect. You see? We'll try and do the marbling underneath. You could actually put lines in that look like stems or things like that. Then you can overwork it, actually. You same to the top. Yeah, it is dry brush stroke. You kind of using the side of your brush, twisting it. You get haphazard marks, which is more like a marbly kind of pattern. Or you can use some cling film or anything like that, you know. Cling filmers. right at the very end, 5G. I'm going to finish off with a little bit more pure white. I have got pastel, but I'm going to use some white pigment just to give you an idea of how strong the whites can be and how they stand out from the background. Because this little bring them to life actually. That's how white you can go. Pure white to turning white, doing the edges of some of these little foldy petals. Don't block in the whole thing. You just want little areas. And if you actually look, you can see these little areas where light catches things. And you might find you're happy with it. Yeah. If you're not, always leave it. Don't throw them away. Always leave them for a day or so, or even a couple of months. I won't throw them away anyway, because you'll learn something by doing it. I've glazed over that bit with the white as well, but it's like I said, it goes opaque, so if you do it too much, you'll cover up all this lovely gesso underneath. We can still blend it a bit. Not using any colour with this white. I'm just going to put pure white on, see if I can bring out the light catching the petals. And then we'll call it a day. We're back on Friday. I'm back on watercolour because I've got my paper now. It's come watercolour paper. So, and I don't know what we're doing, but we won't be doing flowers. I know that for we've done enough lately. You could start using paint and colour if you wanted over the top. I just found it you don't really need. If you put that on and blend it, that's a bit of a reflection, and the edge of this blends into. Use your fingers. I really want that to stand out, and I want this edge to stand out. Blend it. Anyway, it works. I was interested to find out. If you don't know anything, if you don't do it, you'll never know. So you'll be fine at doing anything, really. And let's hope we're back to classroom soon, because it's doing me head in. Been stuck at home. I've never done as much walking in my life. I'm dead thin. And no food. No food. So at the time you don't want too much contrast leading you out of a picture either. So you want to kind of let it disappear. Like I said, use your brush to just put an edge in, really, like there, and leave it. And I'll put a bit there. That's as light as I can go with it. You mix the blue with it, the white, this is where you can carry on forever, because I mix the blue, I can start painting some of the blue reflections. in the petals. It's all about bringing it to life, isn't it? As long as you don't do too much, I don't think. I like to the looking glass. Yeah, still going. I've got my booster as well. I got my booster on, so it's boosting the internet. It cost me a tenner, much cheaper than Sky. And I'm going to leave it very dry because there's thick areas of white paint. And the other way you can do it now is you can varnish it when it's dry, and then you can glaze over the varnish, because if you use a water-based varnish, those of you who come to my class know you can do a lot of colour glazing over the top. And then but you can't make a mistake, because if you go too dark with your glaze, you can rub it out, and you can always use white pigment to put back the highlights. Yeah, I mean, anything like that. It's the difference between a black area and the white, pure white area. That's it. Just put them clamps there. Clamp it up. I'll just show you what if you did use any compressed, because if you use compressed, the darkest part of this picture is actually the stamen here and things there. So that is how dark you can get, yeah, if you want to. Again, don't do too much. Some of these shapes just bring out the edges of a petal. Okay. Pointillism, we'll have to start doing in the style of like we're doing class. See, got my hat in there, doing all around it. Blend it. This is compressed charcoal. This is where I could put. We'll turn you off now and carry on with this. I'm just going to put more darks around some of these petals. Bring them out. Beautiful. Yeah. Stand by. Done enough today. Yeah, worked quite well. In the style of Georgia Oakley. It looks delicate from a distance, Judith, but anyway, they're supposed to be seen from a distance. So yeah, your compressed charcoal can really bring good to time to bring out the edges. But like I say, you can do too much, I think. You can do too much of these darks, so you lose that softness, delicate bit. Becomes quite harsh. So when you put the darks in, it's just little areas on the picture or whatever the subject you're looking at that just change tone ever so slightly, but not too much. Right, that's it. Thank you. Watercolour on what day with Friday. Every day's the same. Watercolour on Friday. Sign it, date it, think of the number, double it. As a note, sell it if you can. And I'll see you Friday. Okay, thank you very much. Thanks for watching. I might get my hair cut sometime. And see you then. Bye.